But we just released a new build, and we have some very cool updates in here that I wanted to show you guys. If you're not on the most recent version of the app, I would go download it, update it in the App Store or in the Play Store, because we have some very cool new features and actually a very big update that hopefully is coming out on Thursday in addition to this one. So first things first, we made an accessibility update. We've had a bunch of different people talk about in the community section about how things are hard to read. So if, like, the font's a little bit small, so we just made an accessibility improvement where now you can increase the font size. This is done on your device, but this will allow you to hopefully read some of the text a little bit more clearly over in the community section and over on other parts of the app. So in order to do this, it depends on if you're on iOS or Android, but the process is pretty similar. For iOS, you would just go to your settings, and then you would go to accessibility. You would go to display and text size, and then larger text. And from there, there's a sliding scale that will increase your text size, and that will then increase the font size on your entire device. You might already have it set that way, but then it will also increase the font size on Bad Traders. So we've made that compatible, which is nice. And then doing it on Android 13 and up is a pretty similar thing. You just go to settings, display and text, and then font size, and then you'll be able to increase the font size across your device. And then that will also extend to Bad Traders, so you can read the chat messages, stuff on the community section, and hopefully that'll help make the app a little bit more accessible, which is cool. So this is hopefully going to make the app a lot easier to use. And so, yeah, if you go download the most recent version of the Bad Trader app, you'll be able to find it there. And then as well, we've also made some updates to the portfolio page, which are very cool. Right now, the portfolio page you can only log in with your Tasty Trade account. I know we have a lot of Tasty Traders that are over here in chat. So if you log in with your Tasty Trade account, you'll be able to see your market cap distribution now. If you click on any one of those market caps, you'll be able to see which holdings fall in that category. You can see small, mid, mega, large, all the different market caps. So now on the portfolio page, on the updated version of the app, you'll be able to see that as well, with some of the other features that we already have on there, which would be cool. And then in addition to that, we've already made a ton of very cool improvements to the portfolio page. If you haven't logged in a while, I think it's awesome. You can add a benchmark to your portfolio, so you can see how much money you've lost compared to the market. And you can see your top holdings, the sectors there. The portfolio page is really cool if you haven't checked it out. And yeah, right now you can only log in with your Tasty Trade account, but that is actually going to change soon. That'll be for later this week. So you'll be able to see your market caps on there. And then this is something that I find actually very helpful, which is now, so there's an events calendar on the trade page. You can see a calendar with like major earnings, CPI, dividends, all that kind of stuff. But on your portfolio page, you can now actually access all of the major events in the month for your top holdings. So, these are placeholders, but you'll be able to see dividends, you'll be able to see earnings for the top holdings in your portfolio. And you can kind of expand that card out to see what the EV estimates were, what the realized ones were, what the rev estimates and the EPS estimates were and what they wound up being, what your different earnings results, dividends results wound up being. So you can actually see that for your top holdings. And that's, again, over on the portfolio page when you log into your brokerage account. I don't know why, for some reason, events are just not really done well. Like, I've been on a bunch of major brokers. Events are something that just they don't really do it very well. To find out if something has earnings, like the amount of work that you have to do to find out if something has earnings or something has dividends, when the dates are, it's just not laid out very well. So that's why one of my favorite features on the entire app is the events calendar. It's just a visual tool that tells you when earnings are and when dividends are and when macro announcements are. It just gives it to you, which is great. And so something that I would like to see more in the future is here are your holdings. Here are some events that might impact whether or not you want to keep holding them. Notifications like, hey, Apple's going to report today. Do you want to keep holding these shares? So I don't know why, but the events stuff on Bad Trader is something I've been especially excited about, and I've found especially useful, just because, for whatever reason, they're just not done very well, in my opinion, on a lot of other apps. So, what are you going to do?
Yeah, trying to depend on Wall Street bets on their calendar picture for your portfolio like a week in advance, because that always can change. I remember when, for example, Vito, the Nasdaq website and other websites put the dividend at 60%, but the real one was 72%. You gotta trust your broker.
But that being said, that's actually, so I didn't know this until we started building out some of these features. I'll say that we use a third-party service provider for, a lot of this earnings data, a lot of these dates, right? So we use a third-party service provider for that. We don't collect all that ourselves. But as we started building these features out, we wanted to check them against other service providers. So we would, create some of these features. We created the event calendar. We would compare it to Tasty. We compare it to Earnings Whispers. We compare it to the NASDAQ, made different sources. I was shocked how often there was not agreement on when an earnings date was going to be. Even sometimes whether or not a company reported earnings. Like some sources would say that they did, some sources would say that they didn't. And I'm like, this is just relentless. It's an and/or the relentless. It's just so that's something that's always worth noting. That's something I didn't actually realize until we started building these features out, that a lot of earnings dates are estimates and they may or may not actually report on that day. So you want to kind of keep an eye on things. That's the active trading mentality. But in addition to that, I always double check some of these some of these dates estimates and some of these numbers against other sources just to be a little bit more thorough. So but yeah, these are some additions that we've made to the portfolio page. I think these are very cool. And then in addition to that, if you have not gotten your trading summary already, your bad trader wrapped, you can go find that on the portfolio page as well. So trading snapshot for 2024. Again, if you log into your right now Tasty brokerage, but if you log into your brokerage, you'll be able to see your trading snapshot for the year. You can see how many trades you've made year to date, what symbols you've traded the most, your biggest winner, your biggest loser. And we can post photos on the community section if you'd like to share those. It's always fun. But
I'll be posting mine.
Yeah, so that's a good time. If you haven't gotten your snapshot, then go check that out. It's over on the portfolio page. We have a question right here from Bob. So you're saying that things being reported are not the actual events. What I have seen the most common is that a company will report earnings and it will log on some collection sites, but it won't log on others. Or it'll say that a company has 3 estimated dates in the same month or something like that. Some inconsistencies there. Yes. But in terms of that, checking the news, you'll see what the actual estimates are and what they're agreed upon. But I've noticed some discrepancies between sources. Especially if they have not yet reported, I've seen different dates for companies all the time. So just because, again, they're estimates, usually once they report, it's pretty rare to see disagreement once they've actually reported, but I've seen disagreement myself, so that's why I always double check it. But in my experience, once a company actually reports, there tends to be more agreement and everything tends to update pretty quickly, which is good. But I'll still see that it won't register on some sites, but it will register on others, although that doesn't happen as much. I hope that clarifies, Bob.
Yep. Yeah, I think the biggest example when you and I were actually trying to decide what was the actual dividend yield of Vito.
Yeah, we saw dividend yields
60 or 70%.
I saw dividend yields for the upcoming dividend reported with 3 or maybe it was even 4 different numbers for what the dividend estimate was going to be. And once it actually reported, I think the data becomes a lot more consistent. It's kind of rare, but sometimes I'll see things that won't update right away, for example, especially when the estimate and then the realized date were actually pretty different. So yeah, that's why the event stuff has just not, it's very messy to do. But we're trying our best to do it. So I hope you guys enjoy it. But yeah, it's always an area of uncertainty that I kind of didn't realize or didn't know about, at least until we started putting stuff like this together. So that's kind of cool.
What an amazing update, too. They're definitely very excited.